Thank you so very much. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks for this session's organizers. And my name is Dr. Jamshed. I'm working as a Joint Director Policy at National Energy Conservation and Efficiency Authority, Islamabad. Basically, at NEECA, we are working together. We are working to establish an ecosystem where we promote energy efficiency and conservation related practices. And basically in NEECA, we try to provide that ecosystem through direct interventions, policy related matter, as well as sometimes we are providing some nudging solutions to the market. So we were analyzing that we are consuming a lot of energy, especially energy and electricity. So if you look into the building sector of Pakistan, building sector of Pakistan basically consume 23% of energy and almost 50% of electricity. So it is one of the most energy intensive sector of Pakistan. So we developed energy efficiency and conservation building code in 2023 to move toward a building system or a energy efficient buildings, so to save energy, to conserve energy, and to move to more sustainable practices. So today we will be talking about those energy efficiency and conservation building codes. Basically, first of all, I would like to invite the architect, Mr. Farooq Khan Kakar, and I would like to ask him that what's the industry perspective on those energy efficiency and conservation codes. They're considering it as a regulatory burden, or they're considering it as a new business opportunity. What do you say?
Thank you very much. I'm glad we are a part of this kind of a session. I think it was long awaited. We've been dealing with these kind of institutes in terms of getting the buildings recognized as somewhat LEED certified, EDGE certified, SEED certified. So I'm glad this kind of discussion has popped up for all the architects and construction industry stakeholders. So I think ECBC what I can imagine is it needs to formulate a strategy where you give us a platform where all the design of the built environment needs to be investigated. It needs to be prioritized in terms of its performance, and actual strategies need to be devised in terms of getting a performance-based built environment in the future. So I think we can begin this discussion from the point that ECBC can take a role or can come into some kind of partnership or some kind of collaboration with these already established NGOs who are already working, even like Passive House. It's a German NGO. LEED, SEED it's a Pakistan GBC Council's initiative. So I think what we need to do is we need to bring this case up. We need to get the buildings registered. We need to understand how architects can be more responsive to some kind of conditions that we have laid. So unless there's a parameter, unless there's a kind of a guidebook that we all need to follow, I think we have already we've been playing around without these kind of things coming to our control. So I think we should start this by making it some kind of an organization which starts to document the energy requirements and some kind of incentives also, and it has to also be clubbed with the major design industry, so that everything comes into question and everything is, a discussion, a discourse needs to happen.
Thank you for your remarks. Moving forward, I would like to ask Dr. Maryam Sadiq that to get an academic perspective, what design innovation or practical adjustment do architects needs to adopt and comply with the ECBC?
Right. Thank you for this question. It's a little bit difficult to answer because the ECBC, as I read it the past few days, it's a brilliant initiative. We do need to have some sort of guideline in terms of how to better improve the building stock that we have. But the compliances within that are very rigid. It's not a minimum set guideline. It's more of this must be done. For example, the louvers, you need to have this many inches between each and whatnot. So it's something that is, it's a good initiative, but it's not user-friendly. And in terms of, you asked for the academic perspective, well, we teach students how to design. We can teach them better ways, and we already do, in terms of environmentally sensitive design, local context, local culture, and all of that. But in terms of how you are actually going to get that implemented in practice, that is where the problem is going to arise. You know, we can talk to our different stakeholders, but there, you know, you speak about within the ECBC, the U values and the ways of measuring how environmentally sensitive or energy efficient the different materials are, and which should be used. But then how do you teach the layman or the contractor what to do? How do you teach your client who essentially is paying? And that includes your, the builders, the people who are paying for larger projects. The ECBC applies to smaller houses as well, right? It applies to single unit residential structures. How do you teach those people who are actually going to be paying to understand all of these things? So that the academic perspective is there, but the issues that we have to face right now are a lot higher.
Okay, thank you. Moving forward with this, my next question is that what type of incentive framework you are looking for, or what could be the policy intervention to mainstream ECBC in all provinces? What type of interventions you would like to suggest?
This is for me?
Yes,
Right.
that's for you.
Okay, so when we talk about stakeholders, we need to have awareness sessions. We need to have everybody, including the normal public, be aware of how this is going to benefit them. It's not enough to just say to people that, you know, you build this along these guidelines, then you will be saving money. The cost required to actually build along those guidelines is significant. If you take the example, for example, of solar panels, people only started using them when people who could afford it was using them, and then they became cheap enough. So the whole purpose, as I believe, of this entire conference is to sort of let people know, let the market know that this is where you should be investing. But now this is where this is a very strange sort of dilemma, that businesses want to make money, so they are going to be charging more for it. So the government, probably NEECA in this regard, would need to move forward so that there are proper incentives, just as Kakar Saab said, that you've got to incentivize it for people to actually invest in this sort of thing. Right.
Thank you. Building on that, basically, Pakistan's power sector facing severe and multidimensional challenges. One of them is the demand side management. If we look into the national grid or the national energy consumption pattern, specifically in electricity, in winter, the demand goes to 7 to 800,000 megawatt, and in summer it goes to 25 to 30 megawatt. So my next question is from Dr. Fiaz, that what role this ECBC can play in managing the demand side, the demand side management of power sector, especially electricity, and how it can contribute in dealing with those challenges of power sector in long run. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Actually, I'll mention few numbers. So you need to remember those numbers. Like you said, our winter demand peaks around 12,000 megawatt that we supply, 12,000 megawatts. But in summer, same demand goes to up till 30,000 megawatt. What does that tell you? It means there is no additional productivity that country has achieved. So all that extra demand that we see on the system is all wastage. Or being used somewhat for our comfort. So this 18 to, 16 to 18,000 megawatt of demand occurring only for short duration. What it forces the power sector to install more power plants, which, solar may not be able to supply, wind might not blow at that time when we really need it. The other battery energy storages, so that technology is relatively inexpensive. Hydropower plants, so they are also seasonal. So in summer, especially in June when the temperature is really high, so that plant is at 60% capability because the water is not enough. So it means that peak has to be met by some fossil fuel generation. So when we are talking about sustainability, so it means we need to, end this cause, which is your housing. So 50% of your energy demand is domestic and 8% about that is, commercial. So almost 60% your electricity peak is due to buildings. And that building, we have been, with all due respect to all our, my, colleague architects and engineers, so we failed to recognize this dilemma. For over 40, whenever we saw that there is an air conditioning now, the temporary solution is there. So we never thought of making our houses insulated. So we, rather, we trapped that heat. Whatever sun produces, we are trapping that heat as in thermal masses, the way we build buildings. So it's counterproductive. So there, this, from the power sector, this, initiation should have been long time ago. But as LUMS Energy Institute, we highlighted this aspect. This is not sustainable because the country has already faced the capacity payment that we are talking about in 2016-17, 275 billion. That was the capacity payment. You know how much the capacity payment is now? 2,275. And what is the utilization of that capacity? That we built for the wrong type of housing. 2,000 megawatt, 2,000 billion is the extra capacity payment that we are paying through our nose. Why? Because we want to cool our walls. I call it diwaran thandiyan karniyan ne. And every one of us, and what is the utilization of that capacity is only 20%. So the energy sale is only 20%, but we spent $84 billion to provide that 30,000 a peak, $84 billion, the entire nation. They took loan and everyone is now paying a high tariff. And how many people, by the way, how much percentage of people are causing this trouble? Less than 10%. All our DHAs, sona lagda. So what we do, the house is sona lagda, but it is dysfunctional house. When you go into the house in summer, it doesn't protect you. So the thermal mass which stores that heat and radiates in the evening. What sort of house are we building? So the entire trouble of power sector is due to our wrong buildings. So we realized this at LUMS Energy Institute, and we thank you to Chairman currently FBR, Rashid Mahmood Langdiyal Saab. He was Federal Secretary at that time. So we raised this issue, presented to him, That's how this NEECA came into Ministry of Energy. It was with Ministry of Science and Technology. Then I became a member of this committee. So, 2 chapters are, literally written by, although LUMS doesn't have any, architectural engineering department, because we knew and we understood the energy part. So I hired, 7 young architects, because everyone else would have been saying, like, tu mainu dasna kivein ghar banana. All my senior architects would have, maybe, spoke to me that way. So anyway, so one of the authors is sitting right here, young Tala Said. So he wrote 2 chapters, and 2 other chapters we contributed, to a great deal. So this ECBC code came into existence. Now it is approved. So now I being, at the chairman board at National Grid Company. So I would rather come to you as UET. So we will, have a MOU. So you will be our, like, maybe we will make a framework agreement. So I have instructed every building that we build in NGC, in our substations, wherever, it will be an energy efficient building. There is a criteria. It will follow ECBC code. The other thing, whatever contract we had already awarded, we said, okay, give us the new, you can say, estimate for making that building, although we had awarded you. So making those buildings as energy, because it is so critical, so critical. So when we are talking about sustainability, the number 1, to reduce our carbon footprint, and it is caused by the building. So all those power plants, the thermal power plants which we installed, all coal power plants to supply this peak, which we shouldn't be. So going forward, our peak should be reduced. If it is 30, it has to reduce. We need to make targets that next year, it should be not go beyond 29. Next year, it should go to 28. Next 2 years, it should go to 25. And the advanced nations, I will give you, sorry I'm taking a bit more time, but in Ontario, in 2006, the demand went up to 27,000 megawatt. And everyone, they got really scared what's happening. So after 19 years, so the energy demand has increased, but the peak demand has reduced to 23. So after even 19 years, this is an advanced nation. That's how they take care of their environment. So what we need to do is, as Ma'am, Maryam said, implementation. That's the key. So awareness sessions, the overall global challenge that we created for ourselves, everyone has to be aware of that challenge. And each individual is affected because of that high tariff. And utilization has gone down. So the 2 solutions. Number 1, ease of doing business for our industries. So we need to increase our demand. Unless and until, when I joined WAPDA in 85, our industrial demand percentage was 40%. Right now, it is not even 22. So our base load energy demand has shifted to the residential sector. And the residence sector has, the commercial, the total building load energy is 60%, which is a consumptive demand, doesn't add much value to the GDP growth of the country. Yes. So, number 1, on the industrialization, whatever we do as a country. The second is reduce our peak demand through improved building construction approach, maybe following and improving this ECBC code if there are gaps, and enable that environment so that we do not increase our challenges, rather start reducing our challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sir, for your insightful remarks. Now I'll be moving forward to Umar Farooq Sahab again. And my next question is, if we look into the global market trends, globally the rental value of property increases when they have LEED certification or they have energy certified buildings. So how you can see that ECBC, that how it can revolutionize the property sector in that way to increase or to add value to the rental property, and how it can bring innovation in this construction material and ways of constructing new buildings. So how you see that as a opportunity for adding value and bringing innovation?
Gee, thank you. I think it's a very holistic perspective that we need to understand. I mean, we can definitely add value. ECBC can become one of the registration bodies or approving bodies and do all the architecture design value and provide some kind of performance criteria, and then approve and let the construction go accordingly. So let's say what LEED does, what EDGE does and stuff. So either one of the things could be that you do some kind of partnership with these kind of institutes. Let's say we have to begin from somewhere. Or like ECBC is an improvised version of ENERCON that in our old days, there was a booklet that we used to study. First of all, we need to understand that, I mean, there's a question. Why do we have to create a problem and then try to solve it? And the first hand, let's not create a problem. So how can that be done? By doing some kind of passive means for any building industry. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, it's still a myth, but just to share, just to give you a perspective of how we can imagine the thermal heat transfer and how can it actually bring about any change in the larger perspective. For example, though it's a myth, I'm just sharing just to make you understand that. Let's say there's a 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet volume of a room, and it's a completely thermal break where there are no pilferages of air and there is no heat transfer impact on the inside. So one blow dryer run for a minute can heat up the room temperature to match your body temperature. Now, this is just to make you understand, even if it doesn't, that energy pilferages, the heat that we do this kind of air conditioning, and then we don't even bother the doors opening, and the windows are single glazed, performance windows nahi hai. For example, walls se jo hamari heat aa rahi hai, we don't even gauge what kind of heat transfers are coming from there. So I think first of all, we need to understand the envelope of the building. And in order to make sure once we don't let the heat transfer, then of course by mitigating that heat that you can produce, I mean HVAC loads, light loads can always be controlled. So coming back to the question, the mainstream would be that ECBC needs to come up as a body which can actually give us a mandate and which can audit the design and actually go down to the built environment where the performance is being tested. For example, stage one could be get the plans approved. All the approving authorities like DHA, LDA and whatnot, I mean, you need to build a stronger bond with them. So the practitioners need to understand that we need to get the designs registered at the first place. We need to conform to the standards that you've given once it is done. And then you also need to go to the site and make sure that the performance is being met. What is being said is being actually
applied,
practiced.
yes.
So I think that's the starting point from my perspective, where IAP, PCAT-P, governing bodies, I think we all need to collaborate. We all need to come to one point agenda that it's high time that we need to do something to protect and to do something about the country, because at the moment, I mean, all of these are international agencies. We were paying the amount in dollars to get the project certified. So why can't ECBC take that load and, I mean, bring up bring the whole concept to that level where we can reduce the amount and we can actually make the performance criteria of the building. I mean, what I call them as performance buildings.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm moving toward Dr. Maryam for another question, that when we are talking about the financial side of energy efficient buildings, normally it takes a little more financial resources than the normal buildings. Dr. Saab was talking about that it takes 5% more financial resources. But if you look into the financing side, what type of financial framework or what type of incentives should be on table to convince someone, developing agency or any authority to incentivize them to come on and follow these ECBC codes? What type of incentives we can provide them?
Well, the standard incentive is, of course, that reduced cost or spread out over cost over a number of years. As the ECBC is currently laid out, you have to follow it. The wording of it is basically as if this is law. You need to make that somewhat easier for people to actually comply to. And one of the biggest incentives is then seeing how much long-term benefits that they will gain from that. And there is in one of the posters that you shared that there is a breakdown in terms of how much it'll cost for a 5 Marla house and how much it'll cost for a 10 Marla house and stuff. But that, when it is actually relayed to people in a way, not when they are just ready for construction, but through educating them, through awareness seminars, and especially if we target the people who are doing the construction. That if they know the things that are available to them, what little cost more that they'd have to pay in order to provide a much bigger benefit. Nobody actually wants to use the air conditioners anymore. It's something that everybody generally tries to avoid. We're stuck because our air quality is really bad, and even in the winter when you'd want to open your windows, you can't anymore, especially in a city like Lahore. If we give people solutions to these problems, they will want to comply. It's not just in terms of that they have to follow these particular rigid guidelines, it's also in terms of improving their own quality of life. So in terms of further incentives, I'm not a banking person, so that's not something I can generally comment on. But when people know what's good for them, they will want to go in that direction. And just to add on to something Dr. Fiaz was saying about the buildings being the biggest burden energy-wise, there has been a shift in the temperature that people assume to be comfortable, because all of our temperature guidelines, our thermal comfort guidelines, were developed by the heating and refrigeration and the HVAC industries. If the air conditioning people are telling you what is comfortable, it is going to be higher than what you are actually comfortable at. And we actually have empirical evidence to suggest that most people find the temperatures that they sort of say that you should provide in air-conditioned environments, most people find those to be too cold and uncomfortable. So just in terms of telling people that you can just lower it by 2 degrees, the temperature on your air conditioner, and what difference that will make in terms of translating financially, that also will make a difference. Okay.
Thank you. My next and I think last question is from Dr. Fiaz. How you see developing an ECBC index, and for example, where we can collect data of all buildings and where we can rate building based on their energy performance, and based on that we can provide some financial incentives or some market incentives to the developers. So how it can reshape the policy side, the financial side, and consumer behavior to have an ECBC index, and based on that we provide incentives to the developers.
I think 2-3 things can easily be done. Number one is, as I said, the troublemakers are less than 10%. The people who have wealth, who have good housing, so those are the people who have really contributed to this dilemma more. Why I say this, we collected data because there is an institution, PITC, Pakistan Information Technology Company. So they segregate, categorize consumer types. And the people who are using, let's say, less than 200 kilowatt hours of, so they are protected consumer. The people who are using 300 or more. And Ministry of Energy, that they publish this information on their website also. So the data said there are only 7% domestic connections which use 300 or more kilowatt hours. 7%. Let's say, assuming that some people maybe one building has 2 connections because this is illegal, but still, if that building has 2 or 3 meters, so the percentage may go to 10. So 10% of the people has crippled the rest of the 90% people. So what do? So we want to give some financial incentive in what fashion? So I have spoken to FBR Chairman Langdiyal Sahab also on this one. We can give some sort of tax break. If the people who will be investing their money on their buildings to make them more energy efficient, so they can have this tax deductible. This is one financial incentive. On the system side, now the technology is such that your house temperature, that's what, because there is a centrally air conditioning phenomenon in the countries like Canada or US, so all these are centrally air conditioned houses. So they do not have the split air conditioning. So one thermostat controls the entire house. But even if we have individual split air conditioner, now the softwares are there, they can monitor all of them together and control their temperature. And there was an incentive program from the system operator that whoever will install this smart thermostat, whoever will participate in the system, they will be given some money, token money, as well as there will be free of charge that smart thermostat will be installed on their houses. Similarly, as Ministry of Energy, Part division, they should be doing that, design that software mechanism or fund that mechanism, install those mechanisms free of cost at each individual house, so that they can remotely, with one command, they can control their temperature. And this is doable. And the third thing is, we actually unnecessary, sometimes we make hue and cry. The extra investment on that house is only between 5 to 7%. It's not that much of a big deal. The people who can afford putting 7 or 8 crores of one canal, or maybe 3 crores at a house, they can afford to invest maybe 20, 30 lakh rupees additional. So the controlling mechanisms, one is this incentive program. The other one is no drawing should be approved unless and until it has come with an energy analysis of that building. What sort of energy footprint this building will have? What sort of carbon footprint this building will generate? So don't approve it. So make it a mandatory requirement in the regulation, or add those things in the bylaws. Automatically, solutions will come up because that minimum requirement is there and the extra investment is not that much. And when you will have these things, new market player will come. A competitive environment will, flourish. So if there is one person, maybe monopolizing, that solution, there will be 10 other people providing the same solution at a relatively cheaper cost. And there are passive means also, but because and going vertical is, and so there are many solutions. Maybe time will not permit. I understand time is limited, but this debate can happen within ICAP and other firms, Pakistan Engineering Council. So these debates should be happening there in detail, so that some recommendation or shifarshat should come up, how to have step by step. So what I could have done as because I'm part of the power group, in a sense, I suggested to Minister Laghari Saab that we should write letters to each and single, because it's a provincial subject. So they wrote, so Ministry of Energy as Power Division, they wrote letters to all chief ministers and planning commission. So one thing we suggested, no government building should be approved as PC1, because PC1s are submitted by the government agencies for their PSDP funding. No funding should be given unless and until the building comes with some energy analysis and that building is not following that ECBC code. So no PC1 should be approved. So these things are going ahead, and I think KP government has already adopted this.
Yes,
ECBC code.
PDA has adopted that, and
Yeah,
CDA
and
has also
CEDA,
agreed
sorry,
to it.
CDA also
CDA also agreed
has
to
adopted.
adopt it.
So what we need to encourage, as everyone is saying, that encourage people, inform people, create that awareness, and
Thank
so
you,
we
thank
should
you,
be
Dr.
fine.
Saab. Your incentive market-based incentives. Now I would like to open the floor for questions. If you have any question or comments, please you can ask, but try to keep it short and smart. Sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fiaz Chaudhry, for the candid discourse of the subject, much needed. My only concern is with regard to the implementation that Dr. Maryam has also highlighted, that how are we going to do it? You have mentioned some of the solutions, but another important thing would be how to indigenize it. Unless and until we will not have some indigenous solutions, we don't have our own setup, we can't do that. Being part of the housing sector for a long time, I'm also an urban planner. So we tried at Ministry of Housing and Work to shift people from this brick and mortar to fabricated houses and other sort of, but we have been unable to do that. The only reason, because of lack of indigenous material. So for that is sort of suggestion, and if you want to comment, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly. So the whole process is we need to work together. So to achieve any goal. So teamwork is the key. So if you know something, I know something, left, right, know something, let's get together. So encourage the local, the government, our rice husk is like, material. But then there is another material which is stem, which, the animals, they don't eat. So that's one of the materials can be used for insulation purposes. So indigenous solutions, there are researches, elsewhere that I know. So we have that material in-house, in the country available. So we can develop those insulation, proper boards. Yeah. So Imam Maryam would like to add.
I'm glad you've brought this up, because implementation is the biggest issue in this, because we can make whatever fabulous guidelines, but if we can't actually get them to work, then there will be no advantage and we all lose out. One of the things to note here is that all over the world, in any developing country, it is individuals who take charge and who actually experiment. So when you talk about rice husk or anything else, it will be individual people who say, okay, let's try this, let's try a cotton substitute, or let's try some other random material. One of the things that we need to do, which while I was reading the ECBC document a couple of days ago, it came up, was that they, like I said, have requirements for minimum U value and all of that. But we don't have a database of the materials that are available to us, what their U values are. So we've got, there's variations between each brick maker. From each brick kiln, there's a quality difference. And then within that as well, we can, as architects, we can see the gradations of that. We know which ones are good, but then we don't have the U values. How can we comply to something? And because essentially you're adding them up to know what the, better insulator value of anything is really. We can't do that if we don't have that sort of database. So that is probably or possibly something that could be done, wherein if you have an alternate material, you can give it to, we have labs at UET that do strength testing and stuff, so maybe we can look at developing something like this, or developing a larger database, so that people can then say, fine, once upon a time we only had jumbo lawn, and before that it was just mud that we used to put on our roof. So things have improved, but it's a matter of letting people know what is available and what is required. If they know, the more insulative, higher you go, the better you value using, the less it's going to cost you to run your household. People will then, hopefully move towards that.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any other question or comment?
Similarly, I would like to another aspect, like our coal. We are burning coal. We have lots of coal at but coal ash. So our chemical engineering department, Dr. Tawqir Abbas, so they developed, some sort of a block using that coal, which is, much better in its compaction, relatively lightweight, and it is, it bears the, I think 3,500 something PSI sort of, capability. So we need to change, we need to think of the materials that we can change, and we are simply relying on this red brick forever. So there we need to change our thinking, because it doesn't, so the R value, as you know, it's about 2, for 9-inch thick,
That's
yeah.
We were using 13.5-inch walls, and they were brilliant. So
No.
the brick is not the issue.
Yeah.
The way we're constructing it.
Yeah. So the number, the same sort of, the thickness, if you have, if you can achieve with some material maybe 2 inches, because we are space constrained. So we don't want to occupy more land. So if this, another alternative is with, you can achieve the same, you can say result with 2 inches of thickness of material, why to build a 13-inch, sort of wall? So we need to be open to the new ideas and materials. So there we need to, do a research. Collective effort will help.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Over to last question.
My question is from Dr. Jamshed Ali. Since we have global certifications like LEED and EDGE, which provides a holistic approach towards sustainability while including urban air pollution and water scarcity in it, while ECBC codes mainly focus on energy conservation. So do you think, considering Pakistan's challenges against water conservation or water scarcity and energy and air quality as well, so do you think ECBC codes would evolve itself into some more sustainable or comprehensive code, or should we rely on EDGE or LEED for these kind of certifications? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I would shortly respond to this question. This is basically an open and dynamic document, and every 3 years we have to revise it, and we have to incorporate the changes as per market demand and we will see the market dynamics, and we will keep changing the document accordingly. So we are open to change it, and as per us that we already have the LEED certification. Over here we have incorporated the local factors. We have divided the overall country into different climatic zone, and based on that we have suggested the particular specific values for that what type of material or how the building design should be for each climatic zone. So that's how we have to move with this. So our AD building is here, he can also respond to that question.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Fahad Rashid, Assistant Director Buildings from National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, NEECA. There are a couple of questions that have been asked. Most of the people don't know what ECBC is. It's basically the guideline which provides you the energy provisions on how you can make your building sector sustainable. It has different parameters set within the code. there was discussion that we don't have the manufacturer details like the U values and K values of different materials. This can be available, and we have been in coordination with IAP and PCATP to engage them towards incorporating these guidelines. So materials are available, we have K values, we have R values, but we don't know how to summarize them. So we are engaging PCATP and IAP to provide the guidelines for the architects and also the citizens, which will enable them to use sustainable materials within the building. I have seen in the exhibition that we have different materials available right now, like Jumbolon, like PVC. We have different materials available. They have their default values. We'll be collecting that data and we'll be providing them to the architects. So then the designer know how to use the values. The homeowner knows that how much cost he will be bearing and how much savings he will be getting from those provisions that he will be implementing in their home. Secondly, for capturing the data, NEECA has developed some softwares that can assess the thermal performance of buildings. So what you can do is you can go onto the software, you can feed in your data, and you will get the energy consumption patterns of your building. This is a hectic task. This is an ambitious goal that we want to make the building sector sustainable. But the only thing that comes to the barrier is the financial incentives that the local citizens demand. To address these concerns, what we are doing is we are also working towards enhancing and providing REIT, which is REIT funds to the citizens. So in the international community, there is this concept of providing green REIT, which means that the cost of your energy retrofitting will be bared by the REIT management companies, and you will be paying them back in terms of your bills. So this is another mechanism that NEECA is ongoingly developing, and we are in coordination with the stakeholders as well. If anyone has any concerns regarding making their building sustainable or having to get a know-how on what ECBC is, and secondly, one thing to highlight, ECBC is already being adopted by the CDA and PDA. We are also moving towards other provinces to make this document a national energy code guidelines that every single architect, every engineer has to follow. So development authorities have included them in their bylaws, and we are moving and progressing towards a sustainable and more energy efficient Pakistan. Thank you so much, everyone. If
Thank
you
you,
have any questions,
Fahad, for your
please.
comments. Basically, if you have any question or comments, our team is there. They have the stall there. You can approach them and they can provide you the insights. Basically, the aim of this document is not to aid to the regulatory burden, but to make the building sector more resilient and to aid into the sustainable development of Pakistan. Thank you so very much to the distinguished panelists, and thank you to the organizers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much, and have a good day.
Yeah, thank
Over
you.
here, I would like to conclude. Thank you.
Yeah, there is another booklet we actually published, Sustainable Architecture. If you register at LUMS Energy Institute, so we can send whoever is interested, we can send a copy of that booklet to those people who register there. And it also provides a bit guideline in implementing ECBC.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you.